There are times when words stop working. You hear the advice, the encouragement, the endless reminders about what you should do next, yet none of it truly reaches you anymore. Because when the weight of everything becomes too much, what you need is not another explanation. What you need is the strength to keep moving forward one more time. Most people never speak about those moments. From the outside, life may still appear normal. You continue showing up. You continue handling responsibilities. You continue doing what is expected of you. But internally, there is pressure building quietly, a kind of exhaustion that is difficult to describe. And that pressure rarely comes from a single event. It forms gradually over time. Responsibilities accumulate, expectations increase. The demands you place on yourself merge with the demands coming from everyone around you. Slowly, the weight grows until even ordinary tasks begin to feel heavier than they once did. In the beginning, tell yourself to stay disciplined, to keep pushing, to avoid falling behind. But eventually something changes. Pushing no longer feels like progress. It starts to feel like survival, like you are no longer advancing, only trying to keep everything from collapsing. And in that moment, a shift begins. Not necessarily in your circumstances, but in your inner experience of them. Your energy fades, your focus weakens, and a thought quietly enters your mind. I don't know how much longer I can continue like this. That thought is not proof of weakness. It is evidence that something inside you has been depleted and now needs to be reinforced. Not explained, not endlessly analyzed, strengthened. Because knowing what must be done is very different from possessing the strength required to do it. And this is where many people become trapped. They search for more information, more guidance, more strategies, believing another answer will change everything. But what they truly need is something deeper than logic, something capable of reconnecting them to the part of themselves that continues moving even when certainty disappears. That part still exists within you. It has not vanished. It has simply been buried beneath repetition, doubt, exhaustion, and the pressure you have carried for far too long. And unless something interrupts that cycle, it remains hidden beneath the surface. You have already felt it before, even if only briefly. A moment where you could have yet somehow continued. A moment where you felt exhausted, uncertain, maybe even overwhelmed, but something within you still pushed you forward. Not dramatically, not loudly, just enough to keep going. That is strength. Not the kind people speak about, the kind people depend on. The problem is that most individuals develop it intentionally. They wait for strength to appear only when they desperately need it. But strength does not operate that way. It develops through repetition, through the thoughts you allow yourself to return to during difficult moments, because the mind adapts to what it hears most often. If it constantly hears doubt, hesitation grows stronger. If it repeatedly hears fear, action slows down. But when it begins hearing something stable, something certain, your response begins to shift. At first, the change is subtle, almost impossible to notice. You do not suddenly feel powerful. The pressure does not instantly disappear, but internally something becomes steadier, stable enough to take another step, then another, then another. And over time, those repeated steps begin creating something far greater than motivation. They create resilience, the ability to continue even when nothing feels easy. Eventually, you begin noticing the difference. Your reactions change. Hesitation loses its grip. You continue moving forward even during moments when your energy feels low. And slowly, what once unbearable begins to feel manageable. Not because your circumstances became easier, because you became stronger. Strength is not something that arrives after life becomes comfortable. It is built in the moments when life is difficult and you continue anyway. When you reinforce the thoughts, when you refuse to surrender. What you are about to hear is not intended to simply provide answers. It is meant to provide something stronger than answers, something you can return to whenever your energy weakens, something you can repeat when your thoughts begin drifting toward doubt, something that strengthens the part of you that refuses to quit. So do not hear these words only once. Return to them. Repeat them. Allow them to settle deeply within you. Because this is not about learning something new. It is about strengthening something that already exists. And once that strength becomes clear again, you will not simply move forward. You'll be capable of carrying yourself through whatever comes next. There comes a stage in every man's life when the words of others, no matter how intelligent or sincere they may be, stop creating movement within him the way they once did. He hears them, he understands them, he may even agree with them completely, yet still they fail to restore his energy. They fail to produce action. And in that moment, he begins to realize that what he needs is no longer a destruction, but something far deeper. This moment is often misunderstood. It does not mean guidance has become worthless, nor does man has become resistant to wisdom. It simply means he has reached a point where external alone is no longer enough to carry him forward. The weight he carries cannot be removed through explanation alone. It requires internal reinforcement. For years, a man depends on advice, examples, and direction to shape his path. He learns from others. He applies what he learns. He improves through guidance. These influences help him avoid unnecessary mistakes and give structure to his actions. But eventually, he reaches a stage where knowledge itself is no longer the problem. He already knows what must be done. Yet knowledge alone does not guarantee movement. This distinction matters deeply. Understanding reveals the path. Strength allows a man to walk it. And once strength begins weakening, no amount of direction can fully replace it. Countless individuals arrive at this point without recognizing what is actually. They continue searching for new answers, believing another idea or strategy will restore their momentum. So they consume more information, more advice, more methods. Yet nothing changes. Not because the information lacks value, but because information is no longer what they need. What they require is renewed strength, and true strength does not arrive from outside sources. It is awakened from within. This moment does not appear suddenly. It develops through accumulation. Years of responsibility, continuous effort, internal pressure carried without pause. A man continues fulfilling what is expected of him. He maintains his role. He performs his duties. From the outside, everything still appears stable, but internally, something slowly shifts. The pressure becomes heavier. Not all at once, but gradually. Tasks that once felt manageable begin demanding more energy. Actions that once felt automatic begin requiring concentration. Simple responsibilities begin feeling automatic, begin requiring concentration. Simple responsibilities begin feeling heavier than before. This is not failure. It is accumulation. And when accumulation reaches a certain point, adjustment becomes necessary. Many men respond incorrectly at this stage. They attempt to overcome the feeling by forcing themselves harder. They increase effort. They push further. They try overpowering the exhaustion through sheer will. For a while, this may appear effective, but eventually force alone becomes insufficient. The body continues functioning, the mind continues operating. Yet something deeper begins resisting. And that resistance is not weakness, it is a signal that something within must become stronger. There are many individuals who reach this point despite appearing successful to everyone around them. They achieved goals, maintained discipline, fulfilled responsibilities consistently, yet internally they felt drained, not dramatically, quietly. Others still viewed them as reliable and capable, yet internally they felt strain growing stronger each day. This difference matters because external appearances rarely reveal internal condition. A man may appear strong to others while internally feeling exhausted. The man who recognizes this truth appears strong to others while internally feeling exhausted. The man who recognizes this truth does not deny it. He studies it. He begins understanding that what he lacks is not ability, but reinforcement. He has continued giving energy outward without strengthening the source from which that energy comes. At this stage, one powerful affirmation becomes important. I awaken the strength within me that does not depend on circumstances. This statement does not promise instant relief. It creates awareness. It redirects attention inward toward the true source of strength. As that awareness develops, the individual begins seeing his struggles differently. He no longer focuses entirely on removing pressure. Instead, he focuses on increasing his ability to carry it. And that shift changes everything. Because when attention moves away from escaping difficulty and toward building strength, the relationship to hardship transforms completely. He also begins responding differently to outside influence. He no longer depends on encouragement to create action. External guidance becomes support rather than necessity. Others begin noticing the change. They see someone less shaken by circumstances, someone less dependent on constant reassurance, someone steadier in his actions. He appears composed not because life became easier, but because internally he became stronger, and people naturally respect that stability. They trust individuals who continue without needing constant support. There is another realization that eventually emerges through this process. Strength is not something discovered only during moments of crisis. It is something cultivated during moments of pressure. A man begins understanding that what he repeatedly feeds his mind determines the strength he carries. If his thoughts reinforce fear, his strength weakens. If his thoughts reinforce stability, his strength grows. And once he reinforce fear, his strength weakens. If his thoughts reinforce stability, his strength grows. And once he understands this, responsibility changes. He can no longer blame external conditions entirely. He must examine what he continually allows to repeat inside his own mind. At this stage, resistance often appears. The mind prefers comfort. It wants relief. It wants to believe strength will eventually return on its own. But the man who sees clearly understands something important. Passive hope is not enough. He must participate in rebuilding himself. He must direct his thoughts intentionally. He must direct his thoughts intentionally. He must strengthen what still remains within him. Over time, this creates transformation. The pressure may still exist. Responsibilities may remain unchanged. Difficult circumstances may continue. But the man experiences them differently. He carries them with greater stability. He moves with less hesitation. He responds with more control. This is real strength, not the absence of hardship, the ability to continue within it. And so the moment when external direction stops working is not the end. It is a turning point. A moment where a man is called beyond dependence on instruction and toward reliance on his own inner strength. The man who understands this no longer searches endlessly for more advice. He searches for the strength already waiting within him. And through awakening that strength, he discovers something powerful. A form of strength that does not disappear when life becomes difficult. A strength that grows because of difficulty itself.